Hey, and welcome to Toria Talk Tuesday. If you tuned in last week, then you are ahead of the game because you know what we're talking about this week, and that is comparison. So I briefly referenced comparison last week, and I said I was going to talk more on it this week, and that is what we're going to do. So our talking topic today is comparison, and it's such a toxic thing, nothing good comes from comparison, right? It leads one way or the other. You're going to compare yourself and either find one or two things. The first option is you compare yourself and you actually find, hey, like I'm better in this area than this other person. So then you become prideful, and that's not a good place to be. That's not a healthy place to be either. Pride is a bad thing. People always say pride cometh before the fall. And not the other option is you're going to compare yourself and find you don't measure up. In some way, shape, or form, you find that, oh yeah, that person's, I want to be more like that person. And then that leads us to a very bad place of, insecurity. And then sometimes we'll strive to be more like that person because, we realize we don't measure up, so we have to be more like that person. And we can change ourselves because of that. And, it just leads to these really bad and uncomfortable places. And it's giving power to other people that doesn't belong there. We'll let, depending upon what we find when we compare ourselves, determine our worth. We'll let that other person determine our worth, and that's not right. The only person who can tell you what you're worth is God. He's the only one who has that right. And the thing is, I have not met a single person in the world, I can't say in the world, I have not met a single person who thinks comparison's a good thing. Like, if you find someone, let me know, because I don't think anyone out there thinks comparison is like a good thing. Most people will agree it leads to a bad place, and all the time the comparison trap is referenced. That comparison is a trap. It's a bad thing. It's a negative thing. So I don't think I have people asking, is comparison good? Is it bad? Does it exist? Like, most people know it exists. Most people know that our culture even will encourage it. If you go pick up a magazine from just, the store, there's a lot of times like, who were better? Her. That's comparison. Even our culture is training us like, oh yeah, compare this, compare that, compare this, compare that, compare that person to that person. And with that, it's being taught to us at a young age now to compare. So that's not even what I wanted to focus on this video, because most people know comparison's out there and they know it's a bad thing. The question I get more often, or that I think people are asking, is what do you do about it? How do you fix it? How do you beat comparison? And that's the $1 million question. It's not whether it exists. Everyone knows comparison exists for the most part. It's more, okay, great, now what? And so I have found myself, comparison doesn't actually fully go away. I have gotten better at it. I certainly don't do it as much as I used to. And so in that sense, you can kind of untrain yourself a little bit, but it's still gonna come back up. So it's learning how to deal with it when it comes up. Just even a little bit ago, I had a moment of comparison between me and another girl, and the good thing is I stopped myself and I realized I'm comparing us right now, her and me. I'm comparing, and that's a bad thing. Like, I don't want to compare two different people. I don't want to compare myself to someone else. And I was like, okay, so first off, this is a bad thing. This isn't a good thing. So I think that's the first thing, is learning to identify when you are comparing yourself to someone, or when you're comparing to other people. Just stop and be like, I'm comparing. That's not a good thing. I don't want to do that. And it takes, really being aware of what you're thinking about and what comparison looks like to you. And then the second thing is, I stopped myself. And so I had started to compare myself, and I was like, well, she is better than me in this way. Like, I want to be more like her. I wish I was more like her. And then I stopped myself. I said, you know what though? God made me the way He wanted me, and He made me on purpose, for a purpose. I may not always understand why He made me the way He did, but I know He's got a reason for it, and I know He's going to do great things with me. And the same goes for you. The way you beat comparison is by knowing your worth. You have to know that you know that you know that you have value. And just because someone else has value, that doesn't negate your value. And just because someone else is beautiful, that doesn't negate your beauty. Same with talent. Just because someone else is talented doesn't, make you not talented. And it takes knowing that. And for me, it was really, memorizing verses. So there's two big ones for me. One is Proverbs 31:30. Charm is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. That one always struck me because I used to not like my personality. I'm a little quieter when you first get to know me. I'm not always very funny. And so that, to me, I would look at these other girls who were super easy to talk to and they were funny and bubbly. And I was like, well, I want to be more like that. But I would always stop myself and remind myself that, charm, personality, that's not what matters in life. And same with beauty, because, I'd find myself saying, well, she's prettier than me. And I'd stop and say, but beauty's not what's important. Beauty fades. It doesn't last. What matters is that I fear the Lord. I walk with the Lord. He made me. He gave me my value. And no one can argue with that. And so the other verse I love too is Ephesians 2:10. For we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which he prepared beforehand. God prepared works for you before you were even alive. Same goes for me. He had a plan, for you well before you were in existence. That's how important you are. That's the value you have. God looked at you and he's like, no, the world needs one of you. And you have to know that. You have to remember that in those times when you start to compare. And that's what stops you, is when you have these, these truths so memorized that just subconsciously they come up. I didn't even realize I was comparing myself to this girl. And then these things, bubbled to the surface, and I was like, oh, right, I forgot. I memorized that verse. That's truth. And so it takes really knowing truth, really knowing your value, and that is how one way to battle comparison. And there's some other ways I figured out, but that is all we have time for today. So I hope you got some good information from this. I hope you walk away going, yeah, we can beat comparison. I can do this. It's not impossible. I hope I gave you some encouragement, hopefully some useful tips. And like that, if you don't know where to start to say, I don't know how to find my value, I don't know how to find my worth, I really encourage you looking up those two verses. They hugely helped me in the process of being able to know my worth and be able to beat comparison. So that is all for the topic today. Bonus kind of fun thing that I'm pretty sure most of you will get right. In the comments below, I want you to comment what is different about me in this video as compared to previous videos in the past. And it is pretty darn obvious, so I think you guys are gonna get it. But I want you guys to have some fun and join in the comments too. So what is different about me in this video? Let's see what you guys all say. So thank you so much for watching, guys, and I hope I'll catch you guys next week. Thank you.